All right, so let's talk about the ISO 27K family of standards. Now, usually we call this ISO 27000, ISO 27K. Sometimes people hear the words ISO 27001 or 27002. We'll get more into that in a few minutes. But one of the things I want to note here is it's a mouthful, but this is actually is not an ISO standard. This is a joint publication of ISO and IEC. They're two standards bodies. Um, ISO is a more general standards organization for many different types of organizational standards or product standards in the world, whereas IEC is focused specifically on electrical or technical standardization together. And this happened now. It's more than a couple decades ago. They came together. They took what was then a really nascent cybersecurity industry and decided they wanted to create a worldwide level standardized method. They were lucky to have some. The basis of ISO 27K was actually contributed to them from the private sector, but they put this together. They worked on it in committee. They published it. We're now in a few revisions deep, but it's still this joint ISO IEC standard. And I just want to note here, ISO and IEC are both nonprofit organizations. And usually what that means is they're operated by their members. You know, it's member organizations. But unlike some nonprofits, to become a member of ISO or IEC, you need to be sponsored by your nation's government. I believe in ISO, one or more standards organizations from your government may be nominated to go join ISO in their standardization efforts. I believe in IEC they're only allowed one member per nation, but they run this subcommittee together that puts together this standard that really, and just to talk more specific about what makes the ISO 27K family special, it's the most recognized information security standard in the world. So, here in the U.S., we hear a little bit about this, but as you go other places in the world, they may have local or regional standards, but ISO 27K is the big gorilla of a benchmark that people look at in cybersecurity almost everywhere in the world. One thing I want to add here is while there is this global standard, it does have some regionalizations, and we'll get more to that in a minute. One other thing to note is you may think ISO 27K is totally irrelevant to you because you don't have to go through these processes. However, if you've ever purchased cybersecurity insurance, the question list on your application and the underwriting requirements that are going into that binding decision, they are drawn directly from the ISO 27K standard. So even if you don't see it on the tin, your daily life as an organization trying to secure data is really driven by this standard.